Hi, it's Lauren Abrams, and I'm so excited to be here with Lisa McCourt, author of Free Your Joy and founder of the Joy School. And right before I have Lisa introduce herself, I just imagine that time wasn't an issue and money wasn't an issue. What would you be doing? If those weren't an issue at all, what would you be doing right now or with your life? And with that, Lisa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
That's a beautiful little exercise. Yeah. I'm Lisa McCourt. I am the founder of Joy School. I write books about love and joy that have sold over 9 million copies. My most recent book, Free Your Joy, just came out, and I teach people how to have more joy and meaning in their lives.
Yeah, and she's so amazing, and her episode's coming out soon. And she just has so much, just a plethora of information of how to really make you not just live in your joy, just vibrate at a higher frequency, and just so much. And I'm so excited to have you. Welcome if you're watching on the replay, and if you're watching live, that's great. We're so excited to have you here. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to both of us. And okay, so Lisa, 3 happiness habits, because everybody is talking right now. It's not just being your authentic self, it's people want to have those deep, meaningful relationships and to be their best, most live their best lives. They want to do the thing that they've been craving doing. And that is what brings us joy. And that's why if time and money wasn't an issue, what would you be doing? How can they get to do that? What
Yeah,
are
I'm so
tools?
so glad that you used the words deep and meaningful, because I think when people hear like, oh, she teaches happiness, that sounds so pie in the sky,
Yeah.
fluffy. And we've all been conditioned to look for happiness outside of us. When I get that guy or that degree or that money or that home or that, whatever that is du jour. And anybody who's ever gotten what they wanted knows that that's not where happiness comes from. It's always going to be a moving target. We're always just going to be chasing whatever our little limited brain is telling us might be the next thing to make us happy. And happiness is an inside job. And that's what we teach at Joy School. And not only so that we don't need all those things out there, because the irony is once you've shifted it up on the inside, once you've taken care of your internal landscape, all those things that you want out there are just going to so effortlessly, miraculously, seamlessly fall into place. I see it again and again and again. It's really true. It's the way we're energetic beings in an energetic world, and this is how it works. So in order to, in the quickest way possible, because I know we don't have a lot of time for this little talk, I'm going to give you 3 steps, three different steps that you can start to take towards shifting up that inner landscape, which is going to go out and create all those things we want. So the first is start becoming the observer of you. Start consciously throughout your day, because most of us are so attached to our thoughts, that ticker tape that's always parading past our minds. We identify with it. We think it's us. Your thoughts are not you. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I'll save that for our podcast. So start becoming the observer. Some of my Joy Schoolers have set their watch or their phone to go off at different intervals throughout the day, and just pause whenever this interval comes up and ask yourself, darling, what are you feeling? I like to use terms of endearment and encourage my Joy Schoolers to use terms of endearment. Some people, that's really difficult for them. I had one Joy Schooler who said she burst into tears every time she tried to call herself darling. But you want to really practice that tenderness with yourself. So, darling, what are you feeling? And then just notice what your true authentic feeling is that's going on inside you. Notice the tendency we have to judge our feelings, to deny them, to repress them, to say we're not entitled to that feeling. And just with as much conscious compassion as you can bring, just allow yourself to have that feeling. You can build a little practice from there. Darling, what do you need?
I want to stop just for a minute, because if you're like me and you didn't grow up acknowledging or noticing your feelings or anything else, you could just Google feelings chart. Because there's a lot of feelings. It's not just happy, sad, or there's a lot of nuances and all kinds of things. So if you're not positive what your feeling is, you can get a little cheat sheet, and it's actually a long cheat sheet if you Google that. There's tons of feelings and choices. So go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it's so true. It's so true. And so once you ask yourself, what are you feeling? You can go on to, darling, what do you need? What do you need? Because we don't take the time to just ask ourselves. It might be a really simple thing. It might be go open a window and get some fresh air. You might just need a cup of tea, and you might have a realization around a really big need that's not something you can meet for yourself at this moment, but just having let it come up and be in your awareness is what opens the energetic channels toward moving you toward that. This is all still number one. So I'm going to talk fast. After that, you say, darling, what would you love? Because we're under this false assumption that we're trapped by our lives, that we're trapped by our circumstances. But when we take the time to really go in and say, what would you love? It might surprise us what's surfacing, right? So this is the first practice, and I suggest practicing this for a week plus, like really get good at this before you move on to number two.
Okay, so number one is just pausing and throughout your day, set a timer and saying, and really taking a breath. I love the pause. Answers emerge in the pause. Taking that breath and saying, putting your hand on for anybody who's only listening, maybe you're driving and not like really noticing what Lisa's doing. She's putting her hand on her heart and she's taking a breath and she's calling herself darling. Maybe it's like, hey babe, what do I need? And taking that breath and really tapping in. What am I feeling? And the question number two is, what do I love? And I love that. Okay, now,
The question is actually, what are you feeling? And then what do you need? And then what would I love? Yeah.
Okay, those are the three questions. What am I feeling? What do I need? What do I love? Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So if you've practiced that for a little bit and you've gotten a little bit comfortable with that witness consciousness, which is what they call it in Eastern traditions, that becoming the observer of your thoughts and feelings, you next want to start really noticing, and especially when it's not such a great feeling, you want to notice when you get bumped up against something in your day that gives you that whoosh of disturbance inside you. You want to notice, what is the thought? What is the thought that feels like is causing this feeling? We think that we think that the thing out there is causing the feeling. It's our interpretation of it. It's how we're receiving it through our filter of beliefs that are unique to us, right? We're all seeing the world through a keyhole. None of our keyholes are lined up. So you want to really start noticing, what are the assumptions that I'm making about this situation?
I want to stop because you said none of our keyholes are lined up, and you want to explain that?
Yeah. So when we arrive here, we start getting definitions of what's going on here in this crazy place and time. What are men? What are women? What's love? What's power? What is my place in it all? This is the framework that we're going to go on to attract situations and create situations for our life. We call it the filter. So it's really like a blinder that each of us is wearing, and they're all unique blinders, right? Everybody's had different definitions. We absorb them from our caregivers, our culture, sometimes the religion we grow up in, every experience we've had. So that filter of beliefs is what you're seeing the world through. And it's like seeing the world through a keyhole, and nobody's keyhole's lined up, right? Everybody's got a different filter.
Okay.
So we want to stay cognizant of that, right? That whatever we're interpreting from this thing, that whoosh of disturbance inside us, it's not really about the thing that's happening. It's about some stored pain, because somewhere along the way, when we're making up these definitions, there's been some difficult emotions that we didn't process, right? If we're watching a beautiful sunset or listening to beautiful music, our heart is open wide. We're open because we're enjoying the feeling of the emotions flowing through us. That's what emotions are supposed to do. They're supposed to flow through us. But we come here so open and just these creatures of pure love. And when we are that open, it's very likely that there are going to be some things that don't feel good that cause us to close. And when we close, we're storing those energetic frequencies. There's actually biochemistry around it, like Bruce Lipton and really like brilliant scientists today talk about it, which I won't go into in this tiny little time. But there's chemistry around it. There's real biological science around it. But we store all these pockets of wounding. So we want to start separating our reaction, the reaction that we feel, from the thing that's happening. We want to start acknowledging this. We have expressions like, this was my trigger or my hot button. Like, we all know that there are certain things that we're going to be more sensitive to than somebody else. A casual, rude remark that somebody makes in the hall at work, one person would laugh it off and think it's a funny joke, and the next person might go cry in the bathroom with the exact same remark, right? Because we all know what touches those tender spots in us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we want to spend some time noticing that, getting really clear about that process.
Okay.
Number three. Once we've practiced this, this is all just gaining the skills of witness
Mhm.
consciousness. Once we practiced it, we want to become deliberate in our reactivity. Okay, because there are four levels of reactivity. Like, say that person in the hallway makes the remark and it really bumps up against us, right? So the first level would be to tell them off, or flip them off, or go fill out a HR report or something, like just like really go do something. Like, this hurt me. I want to do something about it. First level, we want to like notice if we're there. And if we are, we want to try to get to a next level, which might be, okay, I've evolved beyond that. I'm not going to, make a big deal about this. I'm not going to say anything to him. But we notice that our mind catches hold of it. And then, like, for hours or
Yeah, the
days
hamster
or
wheel's going. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
we're just playing that conversation over and over, what we could have said or should have said, or basically our brain is making a case for why we are right in this situation. And
Mhm.
why we need to be right is another whole huge thing that we could talk about for half an hour. So we won't do that right now. But we do. We're programmed to want to be the one who was right in any kind of a interaction. So our brain is just spinning it over and over and over again. And this is better than polluting our external environment with our inner disturbances, but it doesn't do us any good because we're just polluting our internal environment, right? It's still not a healthy place to be. So we want to notice if that's our tendency, if that's our default, right? We want to try to rise above. So the next level seems like a great level. It would be where we just take control of the dialogue and say, I'm not going to let this bother me. I am above this. I'm not going to waste my time or energy even thinking about this. And that's an improvement, but we're still storing it. We're still shoving it down there. It just adds to the stored pockets of pain every time that we repress or deny what's there for us. So there's a fourth level that I want to encourage your listeners to try out. And it is a practice. It takes my Joy Schoolers a long time to master this practice, but you can just start doing it on your own. It's when you feel that trigger, that bump, that thing happen, notice the tendency to want to lean in and chase it and pull the thread in your mind and follow it, and consciously lean back instead, lean away from it. And what our energy wants to do when our hot buttons are pushed is contract. We'll feel that there's like a tension in that. So we deliberately do the opposite. And we start with our physicality. You want to see, how can I really relax my body right now? Maybe your brow was furrowed and you want to loosen your brow, maybe your jaw, your neck. You want to let your shoulders drop. Take a few deep breaths into your soft belly. Make sure your belly's soft and not holding any tension. And when we relax our physicality, we're inviting our energy system to relax. And when we do that, the stored frequency that just got bumped up against has a chance to move through us. And we have to do it with so much self-compassion that we've practiced in advance so that we know that we have all the compassion for our sweet self. We're basically reparenting, and we can do it in a more detailed way, but we don't even have to understand the details of it. We're giving that child that stored away this pain because they didn't have the bandwidth to feel it. We're giving an opportunity to, let's just feel it. This isn't about what happened out here. This is about what I'm feeling inside me. And sometimes our self-compassion will just dissolve it and let it release. And sometimes we'll notice that what felt like aggression, maybe, or frustration, or just out here, once we relax everything and just go into the inner feeling, it kind of transmutes into more of a tenderness, a vulnerability, a much more childlike sort of sadness or feeling. And sometimes there's tears, but that's beautiful because tears are just release, and we just love ourselves there, and we just acknowledge it wasn't about that thing. It was about what I had stored inside of me. I can love myself through this, and loving it into healing is what allows it to release. And that's how we start to clear out all that stuff in there that's making us be triggered in the first place.
Yeah, it gets rid of the muck, and then we just live in joy. And we get to find out what's really, like, lights us up
Yeah.
and move forward. Um, and then so somebody who's stuck and they're doing this process, and they're not happy where they are, and they know there's something else they wanna do, but they're afraid to make the leap, but they want to. What would you tell them?
We do a lot in Joy School to have a discernment practice to understand what are our culturally imposed desires and what are our soul desires. So we'd want to get really clear on what is this, what's the frequency of this desire. If it's oh, I hate my life, I'm so stuck in this job and these horrible people, I want to go do that thing. It's not a great creative frequency. We really want to clear up whatever is our resistance to our current situation, and not because then we just stay there. It's like we clear it up, we get okay with what's in front of us, and then it just becomes a preference. Then it's just a easy, and I want to go over there, but it's a much smoother energetic path to over there once you've cleared up where you are. And if you already are at that place where, like, yeah, I understand, I'm going to close out this chapter with all the gratitude because I learned so much about myself, about my preferences, about what I want. If you're, at that really high vibe level with it, then yeah, you just make yourself a little list. Okay, what would the steps be to get me over there? And you make appointments with yourself and you put them on your calendar. If it's like make the phone call or go for the loan or whatever it is, put those on your calendar and write it in Sharpie. It's like we're so cavalier about appointments that we make with ourselves on our calendars as opposed to with a client. You have to treat yourself like your most important client, and then you just go through the steps to get you there. But it's smooth sailing if you're coming from the right energy. So first, you want to really work on closing out whatever you're leaving.
Yeah, and you talked about it beautifully on the episode of how you became doing what you're doing now, and now you have all these books and like this amazing life, and you're a good example of it. So you walk the talk. So I love that, and now you help others do the same, which is just beautiful. You're a beautiful example of it, and you're of service, and you have community, which are the two most important things in this lifetime. So I just love that. All right, you have an incredible program coming up. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's called Your Joy Your Way, and it's the most customized catered program I've ever offered because Joy School primarily has been about group learning, and they're ongoing groups. Some people have been in for 5 years because we just continue to up level. So this is with private sessions so that we can really unpack what is your blockades to joy, because we definitely operate in Joy School on the premise that every one of us is joy and bliss and love at our core. We came here as that's what's right underneath there. We all just have different blocks, and it's all about that filter. And when we can identify them, we can take some steps to gently release them. So this program has one-on-one sessions with me. It's got group learning. I customize a practice plan for you, little rituals that you can put into your day based on how much time you tell me that you have to devote to this and what you've tried before and what works for you and what doesn't. We customize a plan. And Chris Niebauer is a guest teacher on the program. He wrote No Self, No Problem, How Neuropsychology is Catching Up to Buddhism. So he brings a really beautiful dimension of like real brain science that fortifies all the things that we do. So it's really lovely. Three months of turning your life around toward more joy and meaning.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Everybody needs to click on the links, follow both of us, and subscribe. Lisa's got just so many programs. Her book is amazing, and her new program is too. You'll be lucky to go ahead and get into that. So thank you so much. I can't wait to do this again.
Me too, Lauren. I adore you. I love connecting
Yeah.
with you always. Thank you for today.
Yeah.